Hi everyone, this is Brian and welcome to the second key, examining and uncovering. This key is actually kind of fun because you're going to be putting on your investigator hat. Again, you're watching the second key in the 7-part video series. As a reminder, I've created videos that deep dive on each and every key. So let's get started on key number 1, examining and uncovering. In this workshop, you're going to learn 3 topics. First, you'll learn the mistakes and pitfalls that many candidates make, so you'll know what to watch out for as you practice. Second, I'm going to teach you 3 strategies on how to be great at examining and uncovering. This allows you to be hypothesis-driven throughout. And third, you'll learn the exact difference between good versus great. So you'll know precisely how to get a great score, not just a good score. I've found that candidates typically make 3 types of mistakes in the examining and uncovering part of the case. The number 1 most common mistake candidates make is that they don't state hypotheses on why they want information. You should never just ask for data in isolation. The word hypothesis seems to scare a lot of people. Instead, think of them as educated guesses at the answer to a problem. You should state a guess of the answer so that you're asking the right questions to either validate, invalidate, or refine that working answer. The second most common mistake is when candidates don't use their structure as a guide. If you follow the strategies outlined in key number 1, your structure will help you a lot as part of examining and uncovering. You simply go down the relevant issues you've laid out and probe on the second level drivers that you mentioned. You state hypotheses, ask the right types of questions, and either X out issues that you find not to be relevant, and you go down paths that seem to be where the problem lies. You let your structure be your guide. The last common mistake happens when candidates don't pick up on the interviewer's cues or guidance. For example, if the interviewer says something like, "That's a really good question. We'll share data on that in just a few minutes. What else would you like to know?" That's a cue to you that you may have very well hit on one of the key nuggets. And the interviewer needs to make sure you're asking the right questions to X out and at least explore and rule out other areas on your issue tree that you laid out in your structure. Now let's talk about the 3 strategies on how to be great at examining and uncovering. And hang tight because we're going to go into great detail on each of these strategies in the next slides. First, you need to always keep in mind the key case question or questions you're solving for. It's very easy to lose sight of this, and if you don't have it written down and starred or double underlined, you might lose sight of it. Second, you need to have a hypothesis-driven approach throughout. You need to know the reason why you're asking for data and asking the interviewer questions. Remember, you're trying to validate, invalidate, or refine that educated guess of the answer. And third, you need to adopt what I call an ownership mentality. This is your problem to solve. It's not the case interviewer's problem. And when you adopt that ownership mindset, that will help you be hypothesis-driven throughout. So let's discuss the first strategy. Always keep in mind the case question or questions you're trying to solve. First, you need to be oriented around those key questions that you're seeking to answer. Again, write it down, double underline it, circle it. It sounds simple, but many candidates do not do this and they forget the original questions when they're down in the weeds. It's easy to do, so don't make that mistake. Second, remember that your structure can and should be used as a guide for your line of questioning. Your structure can basically be thought of as an issue tree, and you are exploring all the key branches or issues of that tree. And third, again, sorry to harp on this, but do not forget to write down those questions. I've seen this problem time and time again. There's a lot of information that's uncovered in the case, and the original case questions oftentimes get lost. Don't let this common mistake happen to you. Now let's discuss the second strategy, which is being hypothesis driven and know why you're asking each question. First, remember that hypotheses are just educated guesses at the answer. When you ask for data, you should lead with stating a hypothesis and providing the rationale for why you want to know certain information. Again, having those key questions written out or in the back of your mind will help you do this. Second, remember to listen for the interviewer's hints and guidance. If it appears that you've hit on something important early on in the case, again, the interviewer will still want to make sure you know to ask the right questions and rule out other issues at play. And third, remember to use your structure as a guide. X out those issues that appear to be dead ends or irrelevant. And remember, you need to think like an investigator as if you were solving an important murder case. Now let's discuss the last strategy, which is realizing that this is your problem to solve, not the case interviewer's problem. First, realize that your chair in the interview room is actually the driver's seat. You should have this literal mindset because it'll help demonstrate greater enthusiasm and provide greater mental energy towards solving the problem. Second, keep tabs on your timing. The case interview goes quite fast and there is only so much time for the interviewer to cover all 7 keys with you. Therefore, make sure you're being hypothesis driven so that you're asking questions with purpose. When you do this, you'll save a lot of time in your line of questioning. Third, if you don't understand something or you need clarification, do not be afraid to ask. Many people make the mistake of pretending they understand something in the hope of displaying confidence, but it comes back to bite them because they didn't really understand what they were told. Again, don't be afraid to ask for clarifications. Now that you have the 3 strategies of how to be great at examining and uncovering, it's very important that you understand the difference between good versus great in examining and uncovering. One of the best ways to do this is to actually hear and see examples of good versus great performance on this dimension and do that across several cases. And it's even more powerful if you actually practice that alongside me in an interactive way. And that's exactly what I'm going to talk about next. So now that you've learned how to be great at examining and uncovering, now you actually need to practice being great at this dimension. And in my Practice Case Interviews with Me program, you're going to get several cases where you'll actually practice the case alongside me. In this program, I'm going to give you case prompts and questions, and you're going to respond just like you would in the real world. Then, we're going to pause after each key, like examining and uncovering, and you're going to see and hear the exact answer, one showing a good performance and another showing a great performance. And I'm going to help you objectively score yourself just like a case interviewer would on each of the keys. So at the end of the case, you can see if you'd actually pass the interview in the real world and know exactly the areas you need to focus on to get the offer. With that said, I look forward to seeing you in key number 3, identifying the nuggets.